Here's my next one. Why science and religion should actually be friends. Yes, they should be friends, not enemies. Because, this is another thing we discussed, science and religion should be friends. Because John, or Mark's cards, might say that everything is for chance, that there is no mysticism in the world. The world is completely explainable through science. Whereas the more religious aspects might say, oh no, everything, God did everything. Nothing is for chance. Everything is completely predestined. Now these are two opposite sides almost. These are very opposite sides. So, can they ever be friends? Well, yes, they can. I was once talking to the Cantrons, who are Baptist, about how evolution would be different in a way if they had. They didn't want to hear about evolution at all. Yes. Well, you cannot deny that in science we have already proven the Earth's age is billions of years old, not thousands of years old. We've already disputed a part of the Old Testament text, claiming this 6,000 year thing, or 8,000 years. We've already disproven that. We've proven there are rocks and things on Earth that are quite a bit older than humanity. Yes, so we've proven that. Science proves that. And the very, very strict religious might say, that's absolute. It says that in there, but actually, it does not. And they might say, no, you heretic. But actually, no. They are backtracking from the New Testament back to the Old Testament and trying to figure out how long Genesis took place. It does not say how long Genesis took place. All we can know, kind of for certain, from looking at ancient scrolls and things like Dead Sea Scrolls and whatnot, is we can kind of pinpoint when the Hebrews were kicked out of Egypt or left as slaves. That's as far back as it actually goes. So this bizarre discussion was how science and religion could come together and not be enemies. And how, as I was trying to say before, that science has proven fairly substantially with dating that the Earth is over 4.5 billion years old, and that doesn't seem to jive with Genesis, which says the Earth is 8,000 years old, and that the people that are very, very religious would say that's an absolute, that 8,000 years. The science would say no, it's not. The patterns of this world type of thing. Well, actually, it is curious, though, that the Hittites, who became the Canaanites, they were the first to develop a written language, which they then passed on to the ancient Hebrew. They were one of the groups that taught them the Hebrew, who became the Hebrews, or may have allegedly become the Hebrews. Now, if that's true, then about 8,000 years ago, that's about right, they learned written language. That actually does not contradict the Bible. The Bible, in the book of, I think it's John, it says the Word is God, God is the Word, and God was in the Word. I think that might be semi-liberal apocrypha. Literal. They're essentially saying that God gave language, the Word, to the Hebrews. And the Old Testament, which was written before the Hebrews, a lot of the beginning of the Old Testament, Genesis, was written before the Hebrews left Egypt. So, yes, it's an oral tradition. And they did have picture writing. They must have learned that from the Egyptians. And Moses is son of what? We don't know. But yes, Moses was very old. All that stuff is not in question. But the Earth can't be only 8,000 years old. That's silly. It is curious, though, that about 9,000 years ago, was the end of the last ice age in the Dryas period. Very interesting. If it was the end of the last ice age, and Ice Age, Stone Age man was coming out of their areas, and the sea levels would have been considerably lower as they left the fertile valleys of the Tigris and the Euphrates and the two other rivers there, and all that. There's a lot of other stuff going on, but it should suffice it to say that that there's room for both, and that God fits in there, in that He makes that room for both because He's God, because He can do anything He wants. He can be creative, do anything He wants. So also evolutionist people say, oh, but here's this tree of life and there's missing links, like man isn't exactly a monkey, yeah, and bird isn't exactly a dinosaur and whatnot, and all these other things are out there. Saber-toothed cat isn't exactly a house cat. Wolf isn't exactly a dog, but it's sort of that kind of thing. So there's pieces missing. So we're not apes exactly. We're primates. So, and we're not Neanderthals. We are only a little bit Neanderthal. We've checked the DNA. We're a little bit Neanderthal, which could only mean one thing: we actually bred with them at one point. Some of our genes are Neanderthal. And I've met some people in the world that actually are probably a few more genes Neanderthal than I think. Some of them are just completely demented, and they could be considered the missing link. Yes. But anyway, let's see. Fox News. No. Yes. So God fills in the missing links. That's what I'm trying to say. God fills in the missing links, and there are parts of the Bible which are up for interpretation. There's some weird stuff in the Old Testament about who to stone on certain days, and which people to invade on certain other days, and how many ways to carry the ark and stuff, and all that. And that stuff doesn't exist anymore. So, and that way of life doesn't exist anymore. It's changed. So that has changed, but not the canon. The canon has kind of been the same. Yeah, it's kind of been the same for many years. So there you go. But yes, I think that we can interpret John, 1 John, the Word is God, as the written Word is literally God's written Word, and that He has, the Word is God and God is the Word. So that just means you could interpret that if you want to, if you're not all wholly religious, you can interpret that as at some point God taught language to the Canaanites, who taught it to the Hebrews when the Hebrews invaded Canaan. That's when they learned written language from the Canaanites. And what's funny is God told them not to interbreed with the Canaanites and hang out with them. They did anyway. So, when the Canaanites used to be the Hittites. Isn't that interesting? And there's a lot of fun stuff about that. And granted, I am not a theology scholar. I just know a lot about that. But anyway, and about weird history and stuff like that. So there you go. There you go. God filled in the gaps. He filled in the missing links. He filled in the missing years. Of course, then super theologians would say, well, then that proves there aren't any space aliens. There can't be. God only created Jesus to be with man and whatnot. But science clearly dictates a delineation. Says things are much older than we think they are. And I think there is something to that. We as humans can't assume that the Earth is only 8,000 years old. That's silly. It's much older than that. It's much older than that text in that book, when it was oral traditions before the end of the Ice Age, and those other groups that came before us, other humanoids, other humans. And who's to say that God couldn't create all kinds of humans, and all kinds of species, and all kinds of things before the fall, Adam and Eve, and all that? Why not? course he could have. He could have created the whole planet. Maybe, as was indicated in Distant Destinies and hinted at, maybe the 6 days of creation are really 4.5 billion years. For Earth and the Sun, maybe that's the 7th day. The Earth is created and all that. Maybe that's the solar system is created. That's the last day. Or the day before the last day, before he rested. And all of the rest is the 13.5 billion years the whole universe has been around. He's God. He made the universe. So why can't he have made the universe in billions of years? That's not heresy. That's possible. Entirely possible. And that means that he could have created other civilizations before humanity and mankind that are much, much older than we are. And someday, we will meet them. And hopefully, they won't just eat us, or just procreate with us and then kill us, or end up like War of the Worlds and melt, or die, or something, from an ailment. It would change society as we know it, but also it would be, it would be shocking to everyone, and also, I think the reason aliens haven't actually blatantly visited Earth is because they have some sort of prime directive like Star Trek, and humanity is a primitive culture. If they interfere with our culture, we are very primitive. It was once said on a science channel recently, on a NASA YouTube channel thing, that it would be incredible arrogance to assume that humanity is the only race in the universe. Out of all those billions of planets and stars, and just in the galaxy, why would we be the only race that God would create? I think he would create all kinds of things. So we're in his image, yes. There could be other people in his image too. That would be awesome. What if they had awesome things to tell us? Cool things. Space things. We evolve to a Type 1 civilization, go out into the solar system, harness the power by Kardashev. He was a Russian. Now, when we go out into the universe, it's Type 1 civilizations. That's science, of course. Yes, hi, kitty. And that's science. And Type 1 civilization is a civilization that has evolved to the ability to control and build colonies on its moons and other planets in its solar system, harness the power of its sun, complete independence, can go out into space in its solar system and do what not, and expand out into the solar system and beyond. It has developed the possibility and potential for Star Trek, Type 1 civilization. And then you have, like in Star Trek, the Federation, you have the Type 2 civilization, which is at the end of Type 1, which is, you've got interstellar travel and ability to go to other stars. You can have other colony planets. Once you leave Earth, you have other planets. Type 3 the end of a Type 2 civilization, on the end toward Type 3, you have whole planets, you go in a sector of the galaxy, you have full range of many stars, you can harness Dyson spheres and things, and harness the power of whole opposite stars. You can build Larry Niven rings and O'Neill colonies and everything. You can put them all over the galaxy. The Federation in Star Trek, yeah. You have, or the Klingon Empire or whatever. You have the whole gamut. Now, the Type 3 civilization, or the end of Type 2, you have a society able to control the galaxy. The implied solar system, or the implied galaxy in Star Wars, which is probably one of the Magellanic Clouds. Galaxy far away. Or it could be Andromeda, but we don't know. But anyway, the Star Wars galaxy, where they control the whole galaxy. It's all the whole galaxy. That's almost... Well, there's no Type 4, because at the end of Type 3, you're practically a demigod, and you have the ability to create life from lifelessness and do anything you want. So, the end of Type 2 to Type 3 is like the Borg leading up to the Q. Yeah, the Q continuum, you pretty much, yeah. Or the Living Tribune in X-Men. All of this stuff is fiction and very fun. But these civilization types were done by a guy named Kardashev. He was Russian. It has a coincidence that we called our aliens the Karda, after the Karda were robots. Coincidence, yes. Anyway, enough of the rant. We are done for the evening. It's nice talking about the strange things of the galaxy. Don't deem us all heretics and say, "Oh, God is heretic." Oh, no. I just think that the 6 days of creation is among other things, probably symbolic. They were trying to express weeks and days and months. Okay, yes, it says 6 days of creation, and that's fine. It doesn't discount any of the other stuff. Maybe to God it was 6 days. I don't know. Nobody really knows. Nobody was there. They were writing it down. That was after the captivity. Actually, most of the first 5 books of the Hebrew thing was written actually quite a bit later, during the time of Kings and Chronicles. So, yeah, they went back and wrote it later. And then the Babylonians took over, messed everything up, lost a lot of stuff. It'll be interesting if we encounter aliens and they go, what is this oddity you humans have with this religious fervor of your different nation states and things? You're all the same tribe and the same basic species, and yet you're like having wars over political and religious, like, god images and things. That's why we didn't beam down to visit you guys, because you're just garbage. And the largest oddity of the Holy War thing is of course it seems like they're trying to make this war between the Muslim secularists and the regular Muslims and the Christian secularists and the Christian ones and all these other guys, and I'm not knocking any of them. I'm not saying anything about that. But it is curious that you look in the Old Testament and it says that the sons Isaac and Jacob and Esau and these 2 sons that split off from, I think it was Rachel and the other lady, and the maid Hagar, yes, and Hagar's son led to a subgroup that became the Arab nations, and Isaac and Jacob, and Isaac's descendants became the nation states that went off and became like the Hebrews. So in effect, the groups like the fundamentalist Hebrew group, I guess, really, and the fundamentalist Arab group are actually brothers. So why are they fighting each other? They're siblings, I guess. They're brothers. Why should they be fighting? I think Daddy should show up and tell him now. Stop that. Go to your room. If it was that simple, I'm sure he would have done it. Or maybe bringing Jesus along, maybe that was the whole point. I don't know. Because the first commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself and whatnot, and your enemy, and love everybody. And that was the first commandment over the 10 commandments. So for those of you that are really stormingly atheist and watch these blogs, like, oh no, what's that? Oh, well, then you can hopefully add comments. Or usually can. Anyway, not for this. For now. And I will be completely random and say, live long and prosper.